record, and I'm going to share my screen. Okay, now I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to minimize the people. Okay. I wish I didn't. This always shows up. It's kind of hard for me to see. Okay, so we're going to go with Google Forms. So I love Google Forms for many reasons, but lots of things you can do with Google Forms. We'll start from the beginning. Just like all the other G Suite apps, there are many ways you can get to Google Forms. You could start by, you can go to your waffle. Whoop. And I could scroll down. Sometimes you got to scroll down a little bit, and I can get to Forms this way. I don't know where it's in here somewhere. So I could find Google Forms in here. If it's not here, I could just scroll down and drag it up. I could also go to forms.google.com, just like many of the other apps. I can go to forms.new, which will automatically open up a brand new form. I could also go to Google Drive and click New. It's going a little slow today. And go down to More. There is Google Forms. If I click on the triangle, there is a template. So I'm going to show you the template first. So there are built-in templates. Let's see. We got, personal, find a time, RSVP, party invite, t-shirt sign up, event registration. Here's some just different ones: an online job application, time off request. So a few different things in here. There's a there's an exit ticket, an assessment. Here's a worksheet and a course evaluation. So there are things that are already here, and you could also add your own templates to a template gallery as well. So for today, and you know what, I do suggest you go in and look at some of these to kind of help you out. Just coming up with ideas or see how things look like. Okay, so we're gonna go blank. So I'll just click on the blank from here. And this is what your kind of default page looks like. So if I click on Untitled Form is where I'm naming my form. So we're just gonna call it PTC Sample Form. When I type it, it's just like any of the other documents. I click right into Untitled Form. I click in there, it automatically takes what the name of the form is, but I have the ability to change it. I can also put it where I want it to go. I could click on the folder. I could create a folder or put it in whatever folder there is. Okay, I'm not gonna move it anywhere because we're just gonna use it as a sample. You could also store this as well. I think someone might need to mute their mic if there's a little background noise, if you don't mind. Okay. I think there's still noise in the background. I hope that's not me. Here we go. Okay. All right. So I'm going to start up in the top, and I'm going to clip over certain things, but I'm going to show you some stuff. So we'll start up here. This is where you customize the theme for what your theme of your form looks like. So you could just go by basic color and change the color. I could go into choose images, and there are some built-in images. So I can go into any of this stuff: travel, illustration, work and school. I can upload my own header. I could create one in Google Drawings or in something else and then upload it. Or I can go to photos and it will search my photos for different ones. So we're just going to go with a theme for now. And we'll go to work, school. Let's say this would be an art class. I'm going to click on here and I'm going to click an insert. So it's going to take the theme that I put in there with its own color scheme, as you can see here. But I could change the color scheme. So I could change it to be, green or whatever that color might be. And I could also change the background color. Okay, so keep it simple, go a little more, colorful, depending on what type of form it is. On the bottom, you have a couple, not a lot, but you have a couple of font styles. This is basic. There's decorative, which is not always easy to read, so it's not one of my favorite. Maybe if it was something a little more like an invitation. Formal and playful. So just for the ease of being able to see it, I'm going to change it back to basic. Okay, so those are the basic design elements. Not a lot of design elements to this, but it does a lot of other great things. So that is a customized theme. This little eye is the preview button, and I'm going to look back at this in a little while, but when you click on this, this will show you what your form looks like as you're going along, which I suggest you do. So we'll go back to this in a second as we start creating questions, and then you can see what they look like. Over here is your settings cog, which is in a lot of, the different G Suite apps. You have tabs along the top, and then you have general. So you can have it where it automatically collects email addresses. So again, this is going to be depending on what you're using this Google form for. If you were using this with your students and sending it out through Google Classroom, you wouldn't have to collect email addresses, but you could. So if I clicked on that, I also have the option to send response receipts to the person. So these are just kind of different features you could toggle on or off. You could require sign-in, so you could limit that the person can only respond to this once. And if that's the case, they will be required to sign in. Okay, so they'll automatically collect receipts because they're going to be required to sign in. This gives them the opportunity to edit after they submit. So we're going to get rid of that. Edit after submit is maybe they send out a form and then they change their mind, or they realize they didn't send it out correctly. They'll be able to go in after they submitted it and go in and make changes. Okay, it depends. If this was a quiz, you wouldn't want to do that. All right, so just again, it depends on what you're using it for. This is to see summary charts and text responses. So the respondents will be able to see the charts and text responses. Again, depending on what you're looking to do with it. If I click on presentation, this is what it looks like as your presentation. It'll show a progress bar on the bottom. So if you create sections, which I'll show you shortly, within a Google form, it'll show you your progress as you go along. Some of you guys might have created other types of forms where it's like, okay, you've completed 2 out of 4, or whatever it is, same type of thing. Shuffle question order would probably be more as if this was a quiz or something that you were giving to your students. They were next door to each other, you were in the same classroom and you want to shuffle the order of the question. That would be why you might want to use that. Show link to submit another response. So if this is something that they can respond multiple times, then you might want to, as soon as they submit the form, they can then have another link to go resubmit it again. I've done this with teachers. Say you have a special ed teacher who was kind of putting in they created the form for themselves to put in information about their different students, maybe behavior type things like that. And so they want to just kind of, they're the ones completing the form themselves because it's collecting the data about that student. So in that case, you might want to show the link to submit another response. The confirmation message is once they hit submit, what is it going to look like? The default is your response has been recorded. It could be thank you. It could be whatever you want it to be. But the default is your response has been recorded. Quizzes. So one of the greatest features about this, it's ease of use to create a quiz that doesn't have to be self-graded. And just on a side note, if it goes into Google Classroom, you import it as a quiz, it automatically grades it if it's a multiple choice, or you can grade it from later manual review. Grades are automatically imported right into Google Classroom. So nice point to have. So if you are going to assign points to this, which I will show you, so I'm going to toggle it on. If you were going to have this as a quiz, then you would have to toggle that on. Once you make it a quiz, you have some choices about releasing grades. Do you want it immediately after each submission? The students get their grades right away. So again, if this was a quick multiple choice question, I can say, okay, you did questions. They could see their responses. They could see what they got right, what they got wrong. Or maybe you're doing more short answer or something that you need to review before you give them credit or partial credit, then you would turn on later after manual review. So not hearing anything, so I don't think you have any questions as of yet. Respondents can see. So whoever is taking this quiz, you could toggle on or off any missed questions, but you could also require questions. So you could do it where they have to answer every question or they can't submit the assignment. They could see correct answers and they could see point values. I'm just going to leave these on for now and hit save. These pieces up here, we're going to go to later because this is how to kind of send it. All right, so now we've named our form. We can give a description or instructions right here in the form if we want to. I could just type it in. This is your quiz for, what did it do? This is your quiz for, putting anything in there. Okay, you don't have to put anything in there. Now, okay, actually I'm gonna, no, that's why I did this. Okay, this is your, it jumped on me, X. This is your quiz. It's going very slow. Okay, for history. This would be your first question. So when you click in here, this is where you start typing your questions. Okay, now, what I love about Google Forms is it uses artificial intelligence to think about what the question is and changes the type of question based on what you type in here. So we're going to start with just last name and then first name. So your students can be in there. And I'll show you later why you might want to do this. Of course, if it's an anonymous, then you wouldn't have to worry about it. So I always suggest, instead of just saying name, to do last name first as one question and then first name as the other. And the reason is because it's going to go into a Google Sheet. And then when you want to sort it, it becomes very easy. So I'm just going to type last name. Now, as I start typing, look over to the right. Automatically knew that this was going to be a short answer. And it puts a little spot for a short answer. Okay, so it kind of knew that I was doing that. Now, down here, it's giving me answer key, but I'm not grading this. This is not a question that I am grading. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this blank for now. This is a duplicate, so I could duplicate a question. This is, I don't like this question. I'm going to delete it. This makes the question required. So turning it on, they have to answer this, which if it's a name, you want them to answer it. Let's not worry about the 3 dots quite yet. So now I'm going to duplicate this and I'm just going to change this to first name. Okay. Now, same thing. I'm not going to have an answer key. It's going to be required. And now we're ready to go. So let's talk about, we're going to do a new question. So let's look over here. We're going to look at this bar first, then we're going to look at the different choices of the type of questions. Up here is just to add a question. All right, I click on here and it just opened up a new question. This one under here is import questions. So once you start creating your forms, you have a lot of forms, you could import questions. So if I click on here, I can import from other forms. So maybe I had another form that I did for another class. There's similar questions. I just looked for that form and I could say, you know what? I want everything in here. So I want the building, I want subject, how familiar are you with Google Tools? So I'm just going to kind of throw this in there so you can see what they look like and say, import these questions. So that's how easy it is to bring in different questions. You know, again, I could type it, I can redo it, I could change it, but it already brought in all these questions. Okay, subjects. All right, so I'm going to delete these because I'm not going to use them for now again. So I'm just going to click in here and I'm just going to hit delete because I don't want to mute. I wanted to show you this, but you know what? I'm just going to delete it for now so I don't confuse you. Okay, so that is important questions. You can add a title and description throughout if you wanted to make it a separate title for the different sections, which sections are a little different. I don't want to confuse you. You can add an image. So maybe you're sending out content for your students and you want them to look at an image and then answer questions about it. I could click on image, and there are ways that I can bring the image in. I can upload it. I could take a picture with a camera. I could go by URL, copy the URL. I could grab it from my photos. I could grab it from my Google Drive, or I could do that great Google image search. Battle of, oh, I don't know, Gettysburg. Okay, I could bring in the Battle of Gettysburg. I could click on it. I could hit insert. Now it's going to bring in, and I could say Battle of Gettysburg. And then I have a nice photo that I can now ask questions about it afterwards if I wanted to grab an image and do that with an image. All right, gonna delete, you know what, I'll keep it in there anyway. All right, so let's say we're talking about this. And again, this doesn't have to be, Google Forms could be used to deliver content. Google Forms could be used as an assessment. It could be to just collect data, like you're collecting data from different students, student behavior. So it could be across the board. In administration, they could be doing to collect survey from teachers. So this could be used many different ways. So I'm gonna add a new question.
Leslie, quick question. Can it only be used to import questions from other Google Forms?
Yes. Although, I mean, you could always copy paste. So let's say you had questions on like a Microsoft Word or a Google Doc. You could copy paste in, but it doesn't import questions that I'm aware of from other sources. Okay, so we did this, and just to kind of continue where I left off, add video. This is great. I just, with one of my classes, I put a video out there from YouTube, and they had to answer questions. So similar to if you guys use Edpuzzle, a little different, but same type of thing. You put a YouTube video in there. It could be a screencast that you created or another YouTube video. Then you ask questions about the video. All right, and it's as easy, I'm not going to put it in there, but paste in the URL or put in the URL for the video, and it goes right in there. And I'll just quickly put it in so you can see what it, might as well just stick to the same theme. So again, I would always look at the video before I put it in there. So they click on it and you hit select. And now you guys should be, if you were in my other webinars, you're seeing a lot of similarities on how you do things. Okay, so Battle of Gettysburg. And so I could click on here and I could put this in the center to make it a little more aesthetically pleasing, change it or remove it. Okay, so then it doesn't look like a video here. And we'll just quickly look up and see what the preview looks like. So this is what the form would look like once we sent it out. We got last name, first name. We didn't get to this point yet. This is what the image looks like. We didn't do this question yet, but notice now that this is just the YouTube video that's played in, and you don't have to worry about all those ads that might be in there. Okay, so that's what that looks like. All right, so we're gonna X out of here, and now we're back here. So I'm gonna delete this just so I don't make it more confusing. So let's see. I'm gonna just go with the, we didn't talk about section breaks, and I'm gonna talk about that in a minute because that's gonna be more advanced, and I wanna make sure we have enough time to cover basics first, but that would be more branching. So if you want to branch out based on your answers, that's why you might wanna use sections, but I'm gonna get back to that later. So again, let's talk about this artificial intelligence. So let's say we had a picture up there and we might want to say, what happened at the Battle of Gettysburg. Okay, it kept it as, or maybe if I would put it right, what happened at the battle. Okay, it kept it as a multiple choice. Some of the things, of course, it's not going to do it, but so now I can list options, okay? But I could also make this a paragraph, okay, where they would have to write it. Again, that would not be self-grading because you would have to go in and manually give, you know, what credit you'd want to give, and you can give partial credit. So that is one type of question. All right, I'm going to go back up. Now, if you notice when I kind of highlight over these questions, I have this little 6 dots appear. I hope you could see it from your end. If I hover over it, kind of gives crosshairs. I could drag questions up and down, okay? What I'm going to do here, because I know if you teach in the secondary level, you might want to know what period they're in or what section they're in. So I'm going to say, what period are you in? And you can word this any way you want, okay? It automatically kind of, it changed it to a multiple choice question. And I could start typing, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I want to kind of now clarify all these different questions and what they are before I kind of go through and show them to you. Short answer is kind of like a short answer. It'd be a few words, maybe one sentence, first name, last name, things like that. A paragraph would be a paragraph. Multiple choice would give the respondent one choice to respond to. So it can be like a select all that apply. They'll only have the opportunity to choose one answer. Check boxes is multiple. So it could be a question and say select all that apply. That's what a checkbox would do. And the difference is you're going to see it's either circled or it's going to be a square like a checkbox. A drop-down box, and let me show you what the drop-down box is. If I make it a drop-down box, I apologize for noise in the background. I could just do 1, and notice when I start typing 1, it gives me suggestions. I could say add all, okay? Sometimes it knows everything. If I say what day of the week it's in, it'll give me every day of the week. I say add, it automatically populates. So then I could do 6, 7, 8, 9. And then what that kind of looks like, I want to make that question required. So if I go to my preview and I go down, that's what it is. It's kind of click down here and then you only have one choice. It's going to be third period. So that's the drop down box. I'm just going to leave this for now. Okay. Okay. Let's see. We have a long answer. We're down here. I'm going to go here. I'm going to add another question. Okay. Trying to give some more examples here. Let's say you're doing parent-teacher conferences and you want to find out what days of the week that parents might be available. See what happened? It automatically made it a checkbox, okay? Meaning they could put multiple choices. I just hit add all. There you go, it's all populated, okay? It's square, that means they could do multiple choices, okay? And that's it. I mean, they make it super easy and you can make it required. Okay, new question. And I'm kind of jumping all over a little bit just so I could show you the different types of questions. Okay, file upload. So file upload, maybe you or your students have created their own project on their own thing and they want to upload a file for you to see. And I'll show you why this could be really useful because when it goes into its spreadsheet, you could view that spreadsheet with your students or with somebody else. And now they could click on every one of the students' projects or their links to their projects and see them all. All right, so that's a file upload. Linear scale is more like a survey type question. So on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate your teacher? 1, and I'll kind of just show us to you quickly. See, it normally goes 1 to 5, but I could change it to 1 to 10. How would you rate blah, 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 blah. And then here would be not very good to great. I'm just kind of throwing something out there, okay? And then we'll kind of give you a show of what that looks like. Okay, so where's what days of the week? Again, I can do multiple choices. I can check as many as I want. How would you rate? Okay, it's a circle, which means I can only have one, and I could just choose one. And that's kind of what that scale looks like. Okay, well, another type of question. Okay, now, and once I show you the different questions, then we could kind of go into more of the quiz mode. Multiple choice squared, and again, the difference between multiple choice and checkbox is multiple choice only gives you the option to choose one. So it could be one per, in this case, it could be one per row. A checkbox would be multiple. So I have done surveys to my students asking, or teachers saying, asking them what tools they're using and say, well, how do you use these tools, and give them choices. So let's do it like a multiple choice. How do you feel about using these, or how do you use the following tools? And here I could have Google Docs, and I'm just kind of giving you a very brief Google Slides, communication, collaboration, delivering content. I don't know, I'm coming up with anything, right, guys? But you could get the gist of what I'm doing. So you could have rows, you could have columns, however you want to do it. And the way it looks is this. Okay, so it's a circle, so they could only choose one, which in this case, I would have probably made it where they had options, because maybe they use it for different things. Okay, and you could have as many rows or columns as you want. I wouldn't go too crazy. Okay, so they could only choose one per row. I'm going to delete this. And the only difference between the multiple choice grid and the checkbox is the checkbox would give them multiple ways to check per row. Okay, I'm going to delete this because it's getting a little confusing here. Okay, new question. Last couple ones. Date. So let's say you're trying to get a date for somebody, or you want them to give you a date that they're going to be available. I could click on date. Actually, if I started typing date, it would come up there. What date are you available? And it gives me this Montier Dear format. And if I go to see what that looks like, and I go down, it comes in this format, but if I click on it, it's actually going to bring up a calendar, and I can pick up the date and it'll put it in there. Same thing with the time. So I'm not even going to show you the time, but the time does the same type of thing. So those are all the different type of questions. I just threw a bunch of them at you. Okay, so let's kind of go back to maybe a quiz mode. I'm going to delete these questions because I want to kind of make this simpler. Okay, so I'm going to change this, and I'm going to make this a multiple choice question, and I'm going to give options. I have no idea. So I'm just going to say option 1. And again, this could be anything. It automatically knew option 2, option 3, option 4. Okay, now we're making this a quiz. Okay, we want, or at least we know we want to grade this. I could add images if I wanted to instead of text if I wanted to, or I could do both. So just so you know, you could add images as well for the question, and also for responses. And again, I just click on it and I have my basic search screen that I showed you before. That could be useful for younger elementary when you're asking for a word and show a picture of the word, or you show them a picture and they have to respond to a word. So a lot of ways that that could be used. I've also used it kind of doing as a check-in with students saying, hey, how you doing? And a thumbs up, thumbs down, smiley face, crying. So there's lots of different ways that you could do this. And it works well on the iPad because you could use your emojis. Okay, so now we're gonna grade this. So I want to click on answer key. Now I'm gonna give it a point value. So I'm just asking questions based on this picture or video, whatever it is, or maybe it's a quiz. I'm gonna make this 25 points, okay? And I could, but I do not have to give feedback. All right. So if they get the answer wrong, I could say, hey, sorry, try again. Or maybe I want to say, well, remember, this happened at the Battle of Gettysburg. All right. So I could type text in, and I can add a link. Maybe I want to bring them a link to go read something about the Battle of Gettysburg. Okay. So this is a great way to differentiate instruction. Or I could bring them to a video within here. So they're getting that when they responded incorrectly to this question. I could click on correct answer. I could say, hey, great job. Okay, so, and if I wanted to add stuff too, but great job. So you do not have to add feedback, but it is a great way to kind of, always good to give feedback. When I am done with that, oh, I didn't select. So I got to select which answer is right. Actually, I had 2, that's right. So we're just going to give it 1. And I'm going to hit done. You could make this require that they have to answer all the questions. They can't skip it, or you don't need to. Okay, so we're going to move on. I'm going to hit plus, and another question. What events took place during this time? And maybe I want to make this a checkbox because maybe a few things came up. So I'm going to keep option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4. I could add other, which gives them the ability to write something in if I wanted to. Whatever you don't want, I just X out of here. Again, I have the ability to add images. And over here, these 6 dots appear over here. So I could say, you know what, I want to move this question up or question down. You have the ability to move questions around as well. I'm going to go into my answer key. I'm going to give this 25 points. And I'm not going to give feedback, but I could. Okay, and there is that. Now, if you look up on the top here, total points 50. So I could see how it's all adding up as I go. And they don't have to be the same amount of points. I could have, just like a 4-point question, or it could be one question's worth 3 points, another one's worth 1, however you want to do it. Okay, so I'm going to try to, and I think I'm just going to end it with this because it's getting late and I want to show you some other things. So let's go in and see what it looks like and complete the form. So I'm going to go into preview, and my suggestion will always be, and I do this myself, always complete this form yourself first. See what it looks like when you get the data, because depending on what you're doing with it, you want to make sure, obviously you do a form to collect data, you want to make sure that that data is what you're looking for before you send it out to everyone to complete. So I'm going to start typing it in. Brophy, Leslie, what period you're in. I'm just going to give it a period. This is my image. I'm going to answer the question. I don't even know which ones were right or wrong. And I'm going to hit submit. Now, remember where I showed you in settings, your response has been recorded. This is where you can customize what you want. I could view my score, or I could submit another response. I had the ability to turn that off. So let's see, I'm gonna view my score, and I got 0 out of 50. I picked 2 wrong ones. So if they go down and look, they're now getting the feedback that they saw what the correct answer is, and what they chose. All right, so self-graded. And just moving along, if you have Google Classroom or plan on using Google Classroom, if you uploaded this from your Google Drive into Google Classroom as an assignment, you would have the ability to import grades. And what would happen is the students would complete the form. You would click in the right and say import quiz, and it would bring in all the grades right into Google Classroom. So really nice feature. Now, so what happens when you have all your responses? So I'm going to click out of here, and if you look on the top, it says responses, and then it tells you how many responses. So you could see right here how many people have responded, and you're not going to get a lot of data from here. I could probably go into another document, but if I click in here, this is where I can see everybody's response, and you get really cool data very easily. You could create a form, have your students take it during class if we were ever in the classroom, and quickly look and see who's getting right, who's getting what wrong, what questions do I need to go over again. So a good way to kind of pace where you're going next with your instruction. Summary. I get a summary all over how many points they scored, what was the median range, blah, 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 what were frequently missed questions, and then more individualized. Okay, I could see what period, how many responded to each. And if I highlight over the different colors, this is the different color graph, it will show me how many were in each class that took the class test or whichever. But this is where you want to kind of look at it and say, okay, is this the data that I want before you start sending this out? Because you might need to tweak the question just a little bit to get better data coming out of it. What happened at the battle? How many people chose this answer? What events took place? Okay, so this is the summary. This is by question. I could go by question and look at who got what right and what wrong, and then scroll through the questions. Or I could individually look at each respondent and see how they responded. I could also print this as well, and I can delete it. Okay, let's say this is a quiz, and I could say, okay, they're only having 1 day to complete this quiz, or 1 hour, whatever it may be. I could stop accepting responses, turn it off. What will happen if that person has the link, it's going to say this form is no longer accepting responses. So you have the ability to toggle on and toggle off. And then we'll talk about some other add-ons that you can get for this purpose. Okay. Now we have our form and we're ready to go. We're going to click up here to send, and we have some options. If you use Google Gmail, which we don't yet, but will next year, you could send an email with a link from right here. What I do most of the time, or depending on if I'm using Google Classroom, you click on this little link button. It gives you to the link to this document. I like to shorten it. It automatically shortens it. And I copy the link. I can now email this out to whomever. And there it is. It's a link. I could embed it in a website. I can send it out. However, if I was using Google Classroom, I would probably do an assignment and open it through Google Drive as opposed to the link. And when I do if you ever have a Google Classroom class, I'll explain the reason why, but I don't want to get into that right now. But I could also click on embed and embed this into a website. So the whole form would be visually appearing into a website, and you could change height and stuff like that. So that's how you would share out your Google form. Any questions? We're good? Okay. 3 dots in anything G Suite always means more options. So this is if you do something and you're like, oh, what did I do? It's not quite as easy as undoing a Google Doc or a Google Slide, but you have the ability to undo. You have the ability to make a copy. So in the case of, if I was in a secondary level and I taught 3 sections of a class, I might not want all 3 sections in the same Google form, because especially if I was using Google Classroom, I might want to separate it per class. So then I might make a copy of the quiz or a Google form. I can move it to the trash. I could get a pre-filled link. So maybe you want to partially fill out this Google form and then send it out. I personally have never used this, but that's what it's about. If you wanted to print it for certain students who need print, you have the ability to print. It doesn't look great. It's big, it's long, it's not like a beautiful, quiz. It's definitely better digitally. You can add collaborators. So if I wanted right now, I could add Kelly, same thing as, or similar to sharing of other docs. You'll see the same type thing that I've showed you before. I would just type in the name of the person. Kelly just comes up. I could send her a message. Now she's a collaborator. She can edit questions. She could see the results. Okay, so that's if you had a co-teacher in a class, that would be why you might want to add a collaborator in there. Okay, and then you could send them a message. It shows them the name of the form, and you have some options there. So that's adding collaborators. Okay, script editor, just like the other ones, I think this is more about doing a little bit of coding to tweak it. I have never used this. Add-ons, I think I've talked about this before. Add-ons are available in many of the G Suite apps like Google Docs if you wanted to do a mail merge, or I think I talked about it last week when we were doing Google Slides, where if you wanted to incorporate Nearpod or Pear Deck or many other add-ons, it could be disabled by your administrator depending on what they are. But there are some really good add-ons for Google Forms. The one that I like is Forms Limiter. And I won't go into this because it's getting late and I want to answer any questions. Form limiters will give you the ability to turn the form off at a particular date and time. Maybe after 20 responses, you might not want to accept any more responses. Or maybe once it got into a spreadsheet, which we still need to talk about, maybe if you were collecting how many people were responding to a pancake breakfast, once you had 100 people, you wanted to shut it off. It could be based on a data field in a Google Sheet. That's form limiter. There are other ones out there. I don't want to get into that because that would be a little more advanced and I don't want to take the time for that. But that's what an add-on does. The add-on would show up in a little puzzle piece right here. I don't have any in my personal account, which is why it's not showing up. But you would click on it and it would bring it up. Okay, in addition, just to get back to questions, you just toggle. So questions and responses. In addition to seeing your responses within Google Forms, you have the ability to create a spreadsheet. So when you click on create a spreadsheet, it will automatically default to create a new spreadsheet and it will name it the same thing as the name of your form, but then put responses in over here. Okay, so and it will be in your Google Drive as a separate file. You could also add it to an existing spreadsheet. Okay, the use for that would be, let's see if you're collecting data year after year and you want to keep it in the same spreadsheet to kind of analyze that data. If you brought it in, it would bring it in as a new tab. Okay, so we're going to create it as a new spreadsheet and I'm going to hit create. So it's automatically going to open up a Google Sheet. It's naming it the name of my Google form with the responses, so I know what it is. And all of my responses go in here. And even once I create it, this is in real time. So if people are completing this in real time, it's going to populate. I might need to refresh, but it's going to populate as you go. What I like about this is it automatically timestamps when that person submitted the form. So it kind of eliminates a lot of like, oh, I did this at so-and-so time. No, this is when you submitted the form, May 21st, and it uses military time. And I've been asked if that could be changed, but not that I'm aware of. This is what their score was. So this was a graded quiz. So it automatically will give a score. And again, you might be able to copy the score and paste it right into whatever your grading system is. Last name, first name, and this is why I asked to separate this, because then if I wanted to do a sort based on that, I could just sort as, this is another Google Sheet, webinar, but I could sort by last name or first name. Maybe I want to sort by period. And then all my questions with my responses will all be here. So this is what this looks like. And sometimes you don't want to share a Google form with another person, but maybe you just want to share the data with another person. This, you just click the share and it's same like all the other shares. I could share that data with one person or with multiple people or with the entire district or anyone with a link. So this is pretty much the same as like all the other ones. Okay, so I'm almost done and ready to ask questions. I just want to show you something. When you go into the quiz, so let's say I sent the quiz, I'm grabbing the link. Okay, I'm hitting copy. So let's say now I'm the person grabbing the quiz. Oops, get that out of here. I could take this quiz, I could paste it in and go to it. Again, this is going to be what the respondent sees and they're going to complete it. So I get a lot of teachers, people ask me, how do I get back to edit the document? So if you grabbed the link of the final form, but you were an editor or the owner or a collaborator, you're going to have this little pencil. As long as you were logged in with your account, this little pencil. That's going to bring you back to edit the form. Or I could go into my Google Drive and I could go right back into the editing piece of the form. I could just go to recent. Taking a second for some reason, a little slower, I think, because we're on a Zoom. And here is my form. Here is my, so, the purple, it means Google Form, green is Google Sheets, and this will bring me back to the edited version. So just so you know the difference. Edited version, if you went to it from there, but if for some reason you got to it, okay, it's just letting me fill out the form, but you were the owner, you're just gonna click on that little pencil in the bottom right, and that will give you the ability to respond. So the only other thing that we didn't cover, and I'm gonna cover this just to show its capabilities, but definitely more advanced, is sections. So if you add a section, it actually separates this section, and I'm going to show you what this looks like and different ways that you would use it in a classroom or even outside of a classroom, collecting data. So let's say I'm going to title this, let's see. I'm going to call it extra help. I'm going to add questions. Now I'm going to add a video or link. Okay, I'm going to go back up. What events took place at this time? Let's click in here. Now I'm going to click on these three dots, which we really didn't get into. I could shuffle the option order. Okay, again, more for cheating if you were in the classroom. But I could do a response validation. Why didn't it do that? No, this is not. Oh, because did I do a crossroom? Maybe this one. Let's see. Ah, that's what I want. Okay, because, and the reason it didn't do it before, if you do it in multiple choice, it'll allow it. Because I did check boxes and they could do multiple options, it didn't allow me to do it. If I click go to section based on answer, this is a great way to differentiate your instruction. So let's say they did not get the answer correct. I could click and say, I want you to go to this extra help section because you're going to watch a video all over again and learn it and try to answer the question again. I can't remember which one I marked right. You got this right, so you're just going to go to the next section. Well, you are done. You're going to go to submit. So it's called branching. And I kind of am just showing you this on a very brief level. Definitely gets a little more forethought thinking about it. If I was doing this, and I have done this, I've actually done this as PD when they're learning about Google Forms. And this is a great way when you're delivering content to say, okay, they already know it, let them get through it and get through, what they need to do. Maybe some of your students need extra help and they need different support. So maybe they need to watch a video, or maybe they need to go to a link, and you could copy and paste a link right in here to get more support. Or maybe they got done early and you're going to kind of push them forward a little bit more to learn more. So this is a great way to differentiate instruction. Another way it's used in the classroom is kind of like a escape room type of thing. So they can kind of move on until they get the answer right. So they kind of like it because it's a little bit of a game. So that's kind of like more advanced, but I just like to show you what is out there and what you have the ability to do. And just briefly kind of show you what the new section looks like. When I got to the bottom, I would have to click next to get to the next section. Because I have required items, it's not going to let me go for because these are required. Okay, so just so you have an idea of how sections work. And definitely try it out before you send this out to whoever to make sure it works. Look at it in the Google Sheet and make sure that the data that you're getting from it is what you're looking for. So I'm going to stop sharing and go in, and I'm going to stop recording.